Good morning. Welcome back to YouTube. It's written down speaking skills today, but we're not actually going to be looking at speaking skills. We're going to be focusing on TOEFL reading. For those of you who are joining us today. Okay, so my name is Joseph Jordan, and actually today and I believe on Saturday at 4 o'clock, I'm going to be focusing on reading strategies for the TOEFL exam. Let's have a quick look at the TOEFL section though. Give everybody the chance to actually come onto line, as it were. Let's just have a quick cup of coffee. Okay, so, you know, you're actually all very quite lucky. Let's get rid of this actually, because that would be wrong. Just get rid of that. Okay. So let's insert a new table. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So a quick breakdown of the TOEFL exam. I'm sure a lot of you already know what's in the exam. But in the reading section, we have between 30 to 40 questions. We'll talk a little bit more about that very shortly. And for that, we have between 54 and too many numbers, and 54 and 72 minutes, as it were. Sorry, I'll warm up very shortly. We'll come back to the differentiation between these two numbers very shortly. I'll just put the other sections up as well. So we've got the listening section. Hopefully everybody can hear me. And with the listening section, we have 28 to 39 questions. And for that, we have a total of 41 to 57 minutes. And I'll just put that in there like that. And then after the listening section, you actually have a break time of about 10 minutes. And we're not going to put the break time in. We'll go straight down to the speaking section, everybody's favorite section. And for the speaking section, we have 4 tasks. Whoops, got a message coming through. No sound, Hodjam. Can't hear you, speak loud. Okay, we got 4 tasks. Thank you, Eric. We've got 4 tasks. And for that, we have about 20 minutes. What? No, we don't. We have 17 minutes. It's changed. Again, you're very, very lucky. And then in the writing section, we have 2 tasks. And we have around 50 minutes for that. 50 minutes. So that's a basic breakdown of the TOEFL exam. We have 4 basic skills in language: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. As I said today, we're going to be focusing on the reading section this week. I'm not sure how I would possibly do listening or speaking on YouTube. But then afterwards, we'll be almost certainly looking at the writing section and how we can improve our writing skills for the TOEFL exam. We're going to be starting here today. Now, just to talk about this here, 30 to 40 questions, you're going to have between 3 and 4 reading passages, and each reading passage has around 10 questions. So you may have just 3 reading passages, in which case you'll have a total of 54 minutes to answer those questions. It works out to be about, I don't know, about 1 minute 48 seconds per question. Of course, some questions are going to be more complicated than other questions, and they're going to require more of your time. Other questions are going to be a lot easier. Hopefully, with plenty of practice, all questions will become easier. But I think to begin with, if you're practicing for the TOEFL exam and you're doing the reading section, or you're focusing on the reading section, then it's worthy. It's important to remember that you should actually be timing yourself. There's one thing doing a reading passage in a whole hour. And then it's another thing doing a reading passage in the time allotted to you on the exam. And we can spend an hour on a reading passage and do very, very well. But can you do so well? Can you do so well in a shorter period of time? One of these sections here, if you have a 4th if you have a fourth reading passage, and that reading passage is actually going to be extra, it's not going to count towards your final exam. As to which of those reading passages will count towards your final exam, you don't know, ETS don't know, it's actually chosen by random. At random. If you don't have an extra reading section here, let's say that you only have 3 reading passages, then you can almost certainly expect to have an extra listening dialogue or 2. Again, with the extra listening dialogues, not all of those dialogues will count towards your final exam. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Merve. Hello, Ant. Hello, Pelin. Welcome to the class. Oh, you seem to all know each other. That's good. Hello, Zainab. How are you? Top of the morning to you. Welcome to my TOEFL class, as it were, online. I never thought I'd be here after 15 years of teaching TOEFL. Strange, teaching from home on YouTube. Hello, Aitu. There you go. It's good to see everybody's here nice and early. The speaking section, again, you're very, very lucky. Actually, you know, this new generation TOEFL exam, you're all very, very lucky. I remember 10, 15 years ago when we first started, one reading passage would have an average of 13 questions. There would be 39 questions on your basic reading passage, your basic section. And then you could also have an extra 2 reading passages. You know, we now have 3 with just an extra 1, and we have less questions and less time. Actually, I remember when I first started out, the exam would take around 4.5 hours. These days, the exam is going to average around 3 hours as opposed to 4. Hi, teacher. Hey, eğitim bilimleri dersleri. How you doing, man? I can't keep on calling you that. It's a mouthful for me. My little şey gavur dilim dönmüyor. What's your real name? Can you give me a name so I can call you something outside of eğitim bilimleri dersleri? Okay, so that's the basic content of the exam. And as I said today, we're going to be starting uphill with reading. So let's go to the presentation. Well, actually, before we go to the presentation, let's have a look at a reading passage, The Origins of Citations. Now, this is an old reading passage, but it is an original ETS reading passage. Everything you see here is pretty much what you're going to see on the exam. Of course, TOEFL, it's a level test. Some reading passages are going to be slightly easier than other reading passages. And in the same sense, some reading passages are going to be a little bit, well, actually much more complicated than some other reading passages. And it's the same for questions too. Some questions you're going to see that are going to be very, very simple. They're designed for the lower level students, elementary, pre-intermediate, maybe intermediate. Then you're going to have more average level questions. Of course, they're going to be designed more for intermediate and upper intermediate students. And then you're going to have some more complicated questions, more difficult questions and difficult reading passages. And of course, they're designed more for your advanced or proficient student. So, you know, sometimes I get an upper intermediate student, when they see a question, they think it's very, very easy. And they think that there's actually a trick there. You know, just because the question is easy doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a trick. They're easy for the lower level students. So here we are, we're in the exam. The reading passage has appeared on the screen. I'm going to read this, I'm going to read through this, this reading passage. We can read through it together. I'll read first and you can read along with me. And then we'll talk about the first tip, what we actually shouldn't do when we're in the reading section. So traditionally a student would actually read the reading passage first. And that's okay because the man says, you know, you have 20 minutes to read the following passage in some horrible American accent and answer the following questions. So let's go through this. It should be obvious that citations, here it's actually an S sound. Let's open up my little, oh no, I don't have my little cursor thing. Cetaceans, whales, porpoises and dolphins are mammals. They breathe through lungs, not through gills, and give birth to live young. Their streamlined bodies, the absence of hind legs, and the presence of a fluke and blowhole cannot disguise their affinities with land-dwelling mammals. However, unlike the cases of sea otters and pinnipeds, seals, sea lions and walruses, whose limbs are functional both on land and sea, you see this information here in parentheses. We got those parentheses at the beginning. You can actually skip that information. It just basically means it's extra or further detailed information. It's not necessary for us to understand that. It's just basically explaining what this word here is. A pinniped. What's a pinniped? It's a seal, sea lion, or a walrus. What makes these important? Their limbs are functional both on land and at sea. It's not easy to envision what the first whales look like. Extinct but already fully marine cetaceans are known from the fossil record. How was the gap between a walking mammal and a swimming whale bridged? Missing until recently were fossils clearly intermediate or transitional between land mammals and cetaceans. Very exciting discoveries have finally allowed scientists to reconstruct the most likely origins of cetaceans. In 1979, a team looking for fossils in northern Pakistan found what proved to be the oldest fossil whale. The fossil was officially named Pachycetus in honor of the country where the discovery was made. Pachycetus was found embedded in rocks formed from river deposits that were 52 million years old. The river that formed these deposits was actually not far from an ancient ocean known as the Tethys Sea. The fossil consists of a complete skull and an archaeocyte, I hope I pronounced that correctly, an extinct group of ancestors of modern cetaceans. Although limited to a skull, the Pachycetus fossil provides precious details on the origins of cetaceans. The skull is cetacean-like, but its jawbones lack the enlarged space that is filled with fat or oil and used for receiving underwater sound in modern whales. Pachycetus probably detected sound through the ear opening as in land mammals. The skull also lacks a blowhole, another cetacean adaptation for diving. Other features, however, show experts that Pachycetus is a transitional form between a group of extinct flesh-eating mammals, the Mesonychids. I'm not sure if that's been pronounced correctly, and cetaceans. It has been suggested that Pachycetus fed on fish in shallow water and was not yet adapted for life in the open ocean. It probably bred and gave birth on land. Another major discovery was made in Egypt in 1989. Several skeletons of another early whale, Basilosaurus, were found in sediments left by the Tethys Sea and now exposed in the Sahara Desert. This whale lived around 40 million years ago, 12 million years after Pachycetus. Many incomplete skeletons were found, but they included for the first time an archaeocyte, a complete hind leg that features a foot with 3 tiny toes. Such legs would have been far too small to have supported the 50-foot Basilosaurus on land. 50 foot, wow. Basilosaurus was undoubtedly a fully marine whale with possibly non-functional vestigial legs. An even more exciting find was reported in 1994, also from Pakistan. The now extinct whale Amblyssatus natans, the walking whale that swam, lived in the Tethys Sea 49 million years ago. It lived around 3 million years after Pachycetus, but 9 million before Basilosaurus. The fossil luckily includes a good portion of the legs. The legs were strong and ended in long feet, which very much like those of modern pinnipeds. The legs were certainly functional both on land and at sea. The whale retained a tail and lacked a fluke, the major means of locomotion in modern cetaceans. The structure of the backbone shows, however, that Amblyssatus swam like modern whales by moving the rear portion of its body up and down, even though a fluke was missing. The large hind legs were used for propulsion in water, on land where it probably bred and gave birth. Amblyssatus may have moved around very much like a modern sea lion. It was undoubtedly a whale that linked life with on land with life at sea. Wow. Well, let's go to the presentation and see what we shouldn't do. Now, even though they give you the opportunity at the beginning of the reading section, when the reading passage appears on your screen, you'll notice that there are no questions present. The man who reads the instructions for the reading section tells you you have time to read. However, as you can see, I'm not sure what time is it. That's almost 10 minutes of reading. and I'm a native speaker. Reading a reading passage creates a lot of problems. We're going to find vocabulary that we don't understand. And by reading, our brain is going to continuously try to understand everything that it reads. We're going to begin to panic. And as we panic, we're going to begin to lose time. So tip number 1, despite what the man says in the instruction, we are not going to read the reading passage, and we're not going to read the paragraphs. Even the questions say in paragraph 1. And I find students, when they see in paragraph 1, they automatically assume they have to reread that paragraph. You do not have time. You're going to come across a number of problems, grammatical structures that you're not familiar with. You're going to spend time trying to understand these. The reading passages are academic in nature. So the vocabulary too is going to be academic in nature as well. And your brains are going to try and want to understand that information as well. Again, we're going to lose time. You do not have time to read. So when that reading passage appears on your screen, you'll notice in the corner there's a slide bar, as it were. And what you should do, as soon as that reading passage appears, go to the sidebar and drag that reading passage down to the bottom. And then at the top of your screen, you're going to have a next button. Then you're going to press next. And as soon as you press next, that first question is going to appear on your screen. That's where we need to begin. We're going to go straight to the question. And we're not going to look at the options A, B, C, and D. We have 4 options in TOEFL. Those 4 options we're not going to look at. We're only going to read the question. So let's put a question up. Here's our first question in paragraph 1. Ramazan, my name. Hello, actually, right time of year, It's your Bayram coming up very shortly. Okay, Ramazan, I'll make a quick note of that because I'm bound to forget. Ramazan. So if anybody's online, if you're watching this, and at the moment we've got 18 people watching. Yes, I know who's watching. I can see you. It's not just you who can see me. It's only a lesson if you participate. So this is our question. I'm going to put the options A, B, C, and D up on the board. And I'm going to give you, we have around under 2 minutes, about 1 minute 48 seconds, I think, per question. As I said earlier, some questions are going to be easier, some questions are going to be more difficult. When you're studying at home and you're going through the reading passages, such as this one, you'll learn which questions you have problems with and which questions you don't. Adjust the time accordingly. Anyway, question number 1, about the presence of a blowhole in cetaceans. And we've got 4 options. We've got A, it clearly indicates that cetaceans are mammals. We have B, it cannot conceal the fact that cetaceans are mammals. We have C, it's the main difference between cetaceans and land-dwelling mammals. And then we have D, it cannot yield clues about the origins of cetaceans. And I'm going to quickly open up my cool little laser pointer. There you go, it's like Star Wars. And up here at the top of the screen, you have a time bar. And I'm going to give you until that time bar goes out to actually read that paragraph, look at those answers, and make an answer in the chat room on YouTube. Top of my head's not showing. So is it A? It clearly indicates that cetaceans are mammals. B, it cannot conceal the fact that cetaceans are mammals. And C, it's the main difference between cetaceans and land-dwelling mammals. Or finally D, it cannot yield clues about the origins of cetaceans. Your time's almost up. Almost there. Do we have any answers? No one's answering. Come on, boys and girls. A, B, C, or D? Got 20 people watching. That's 20 answers I want. If you're not sure, Whoop, Tashkent, thank you. He's gone, my green screen's falling. I've got green screen problems today. No technological problems, got green screen problems of all things. So Tashkent's gone in with A. Welcome to the class. Husayfer? I hope I've pronounced your name correctly. And Ramazan says, I don't have any idea. Ramazan, in this situation, Salah gitsin. Yani, you have to give an answer. You can't continue to question number 2 until you've answered question number 1 on the exam. It's a 25% chance. Okay, well, the actual answer is here, B. So, yep. Oh, my green screen's falling down now. Okay, there we go. So how did we get to A? Well, let's look at the strategies specifically. So we know we shouldn't read the reading passage, and we know that we should go straight to the question. We're not going to look at the options A, B, C, and D. We're going to read the question and determine its type. My green screen has fallen down. So we've got about 10 different types of questions on the TOEFL exam. We have vocabulary questions, which are basically relatively simple. If you haven't been following my roots and prefixes lessons, I strongly recommend that you go back and review those, because roots and prefixes are basically the crux of TOEFL reading passages or vocabulary questions. We have referent questions, so the question may ask about a particular pronoun. You know, what does this pronoun refer to? What does it talk about? The pronoun may be it, he, she, them, they, who, even. Again, a relatively easy question. Let's move the microphone up a little bit. All we need to do to actually see if the pronoun is a subject or object. If it's in the subject position, then we look at the sentence before and we try to find the same subject. If it's in the object position, then we look at the sentence before and we look for the object. 9 times out of 10, by using that very simple strategy, you're going to find the correct answer. We have insertion questions, so we have a paragraph with 4 places, and they give us a sentence that we need to put back into that paragraph, and we have to choose the best place for that. We'll look at an example of that today, actually. Then we have summary questions, and a summary question, a large part of the paragraph, 2, maybe 3 sentences will be highlighted, and you'll have to choose the option which best summarizes that information. We have factual information questions where we have direct information in the reading passages. We have implied detail questions, which are very similar to these actually. Factual information and implied details, they are very, very similar. The type of information that we're looking for is different, however. Here, with factual information, we can find it directly in the reading passage. Implied information, we can find that information directly in that reading passage, but we have to come to our own conclusion. The correct answer is a little bit outside of that reading passage, just a little bit outside. Then we have function of language. Whoops, my head's in the way now. Then we have function of language. Function of language will test word parts like however. Why does the author use however in paragraph 3? Well, we know however is primarily used to show contrast, so that would be the answer. We have negation or negative questions, so a little bit more complicated. Everybody gets confused with these actually. So we've got 4 options. Traditionally, like with factual information down here, we have to find the correct information. With negative information questions, 3 of those options are going to be correct. 1 of those are going to be absent or incorrect according to the passage. Then we've got the final types of questions, chart 1 and chart 2. I really want to... Damn, where's that sellotape gone? Anyway, so we're going to read the question and determine its type. The basic strategy I'm showing you today is the backbone of every question that we have in the TOEFL reading section. However, some questions are going to require a slightly different strategy in order to answer them. So once we've determined the question type, we're then going to look for the question word. The keyword in the question. And we're going to use that keyword and we're going to go to that paragraph without reading the paragraph. I can't emphasize that enough. Without reading that paragraph, we're going to go back to that paragraph. We're going to go to that paragraph and we're going to find the information that we need. We're going to use that keyword and find it in the passage. Now, once we've found that information that we need, we're going to look for grammatical or lexical clues. There's going to be, we're going to be looking for modal verbs. We're going to be looking for conjunctions. We're going to be looking for negatives, positives. We can be looking for an array of grammatical structures. And what I mean by lexical clues here, lexical clues is basic vocabulary which can actually help us choose the correct answer. Then and only then, if you remember up here, we do not look at the options to begin with. We read the question, we determine its type, we find the key word, we find the key word in the paragraph, and then and only then do we go back to the options A, B, C, and D. And before we try to find the correct answer, we're going to look for the incorrect answers. It's easier to eliminate. Sometimes that correct answer you're not going to understand. ETS know this. They do it deliberately. But they are interested in it if you can find fake information. Fake news, as Donald Trump would say. So let's go back to the question. In paragraph 1, what does the author say about the presence of a blowhole in citations? Well, I know this question is called a factual information question. And what I mean by factual information, the information I need here to answer this question is in this paragraph directly. But how do I find that information? Well, I need to look at the key word. And here the question is asking about blowhole. That's our key word. Can someone, I don't know, Ramazan, are you still there? Can we go back to this paragraph and find the word blowhole? And if we look down here, we have blowhole just here. Now, once we find that keyword, we need to restrict ourselves to that sentence. The other information in the paragraph here and down here, they're not important. It's not necessary. All of the information we need is here in this sentence. Their streamlined bodies, the absence of hind legs, and the presence of a fluke and blowhole cannot disguise their affinities with land-dwelling mammals. So I'm going to go down to the text box very quickly. There we go. So let's have a quick look at that. We've got a grammatical structure there actually, cannot. And cannot shows me that this is negative. We have that modal verb here at the bottom. Cannot disguise their affinities with land-dwelling mammals. And I'm going to quickly look at the options, not worry too much about what these sentences mean. It clearly indicates that cetaceans are mammals. Well, we're looking for negative information. It's the main difference between cetaceans and land-dwelling mammals. Again, negative information. It cannot yield clues about the origins of cetaceans. So we actually, my screen's frozen. There we go. It cannot yield clues about the origins of citations. So we've already have just that little piece of grammatical information. We have a 50-50 chance. A is not likely to be correct because A is positive. We're looking for negative information here. Cannot. If we look at C, we don't have that modal verb present there either, so we can eliminate that too. We've got 50-50. That's not bad, is it? If we just shake a question beforehand, we've got a 25% chance, but here we actually have a 50-50% chance. Now, conceal, not many people know the meaning of the word conceal, but ETS know this. If you look at the other option here, clue, it's a word that most people should know. And if we go back to this paragraph here, the streamlined bodies, the absence of hind legs, and the presence of a fluke and blowhole cannot disguise their affinities with land-dwelling mammals, we have no mention of a clue in that sentence. Clue ipejudemek. So we can eliminate D from that too. Again, by eliminating the options, we come to the correct answer. So just to quickly restate, we don't read the passage, we don't read the paragraph. We read, middle finger, we read the question first, we find the key word, we find the key word in the paragraph, we look for grammatical clues, and then we eliminate. So let's look at this question. Here I am. Good on you, Ramazan. So, which of the following can be inferred from paragraph 1 about early sea otters? We have A, it's not difficult to imagine what they looked like. We have B, there were great numbers of them. We have C, they lived in the sea only. And we have D, they did not leave many fossil remains. And up here again, we've got the timer. And I'm going to give you about 1 minute to read that question and see if you can answer the questions. And whilst you're doing that, I'm going to fix this. There we go. Hopefully that's better. So your time's almost up. Is it A, it's not difficult to imagine what they looked like. B, there were great numbers of them. C, they lived in the sea only. Or D, they did not leave many fossil remains. Any answers? Half my head is showing today. I'll sit back here. Well, the actual correct answer is A. But how did we get to that answer? How did we find that A was the correct answer? Well, first, we need to look at the key word. Which of the following can be inferred? Do you remember that implied information I was talking about earlier? It's not directly in the passage, we have to conclude it from the passage, but we're going to use the same techniques. Now we're going to look at this paragraph and we're going to find that word, sea otters. And there you go. We have it down here in the 7th line. Cases of sea otters and pinnipeds. And I know that this sentence for me is enough. So what clues do we have in here? Well, we have however, and however is used to show contrast. We also have, what else do we have? Oh, there we go, not easy. Not easy, and that shows negation. And we also have unlike, an adverb, meaning not like. And again, that shows negation too. We need to be careful. In English, two negatives do not make a positive. It's important that we don't overthink this. So let's have a look at the options A, B, C, and D. We have B, there were great numbers of them. Well, we're looking for negative information. We have C, they lived in the sea only. And then we have D, they did not leave many fossil remains. So it's not difficult. They did not leave many fossil remains. And keeps on. Oh, now we have technical problems. There we go. So we basically got 50-50 again. And as I said, B is not going to be correct because we're looking for, hey Bessim, how are you? Because we're looking for negative information. Hopefully you're going to be contributing. Boys and girls, not many people are answering the questions. I'm giving you plenty of time. Don't be afraid. Mistakes are good. Okay? So we had sea otters here. And we found it here. We needed negative information. B's not correct. And C's not going to be correct either. We're looking for negative information. So we have between A and we have between D. And here we have fossil, which is the same in Turkish, fossil. So let's go back to this paragraph here. However, unlike the cases of sea otters and pinnipeds, whose limbs are functional both on land and at sea, it's not easy to envision what the first whales look like. We have no discussion of the word fossil. We need to be careful though. It's down here. Fossil. We do need to be careful. If we read too much information, then they're going to try and trick us. But we know that this information is not in the sentence that we require. So that's incorrect too. Again, through the process of elimination, we found the correct answer. Let's go to the next one. So we have a vocabulary question. This time I want everybody to contribute. I want loads of answers. Yep. I'm fine too. Thank you very much, Bessem. So here we have A, exact, B, scarce, C, valuable, or D, initial. And your time up here is about to start. I'm going to give you a minute to look through that. Precious. Although limited to a skull, the Pachycetus fossil provides precious details on the origins of cetaceans. Any ideas? Thank you, Ramazan. He's going with C. What do the rest of you think? Come on, I know you're there. Answer the questions. A, B, C, or D? Where's Jada? Jada always answers my questions. İyi geldin Ramazan. Oh, there you go. Oh, Eren, welcome back. How you doing, bruv? We've gone C for that as well. Hopefully you haven't used your dictionaries on your telephones. Bessim's gone for C as well. That's much better. So we've still got 11 people out there who aren't answering. I know who you are. It's only a lesson if you participate. Well, the correct answer is C. Whoops, the correct answer is C. But why? So let's see if we can find some clues. Again, I'm limiting the amount of information that I actually need. And we have this although limited, which restricts the information that we have. And that tells me because it's limited or limited information, A isn't going to be correct, exact. We can only be exact or precise if we are not limited. Now, scarce means rare. It's an adverbial to talk about how much. We are looking for in the dictionary immediately. I bet you are. Yeah, I bet you are. Technology, man, it's amazing. Don't use your dictionaries. You don't need to. Come on. Now, scarce is a difficult one. Scarce, it's an adverbial. Scarce details. Here we could argue it could be an adjective, but it doesn't really fit in with the information that we have. An initial means the first details. And again, first details, it doesn't really pair with these. We're looking for an adjective, us, and ubl is the best adjective we have. So Pachycetus and modern cetaceans have question number 4. Again, we have factual information. Thank you for answering, everybody. Let's see if you do as well on this one. We have hearing structures, A. We have B, adaptations. We have C, skull shapes. And we have D, breeding locations. And I'm going to give you a minute to think about that too. Think about the key word. What's the key word here? How can we find that information here? How can we restrict it down to maybe 1 sentence or 2 sentences? How can we use that information to eliminate the options? A, B, C, or D? Eren, what do you think? Bessem, are you still there? Ramazan, I know you're there. 14 people watching, 4 people answering. That means there's 10 people not participating. Make sure you answer the questions. A, B, C, or D? Oh, Muharrem. Hello, man. Welcome back. How are you? Muharrem's going with D. Okay. Breeding locations. Why not? Eren? Oh, he's changed it to C. Is that okay, Muharrem? I didn't find it yet. Salah, bir şey salah. Okay, anladık Muharrem. C. Besim's going for B. That's a good choice. Eren? Well, the answer is actually C, Muharrem. It is actually C. But how did we come to the correct answer? Well, I'll show you how I found the correct answer. First, I look for the key word similar. And if we quickly look at this paragraph here, we can't see that word similar. It's nowhere to be found in that paragraph. It's not at the beginning, it's not in the middle, it's not at the end. And that's because we have two basic types of keyword. We have direct keywords, which can be found directly in the passage. And if you remember question number 1, we had blowhole, and we could find blowhole directly in that reading passage, such as blowhole in question 1. But we also have and with an indirect keyword, we need to be thinking of a synonym. Whoops, there we go. We need to be thinking of a synonym. So similar, what does similar mean? Oh, Eren's gone with B as well. A little bit late there, Eren. What does similar mean? If two things are similar, Jin Ali is similar to Aisha. Jin Ali is not the same, Muharrem. They're not the same, not 100%. Similar, maybe 90%. What about this word here? Where are we? Whoops. What about this word here? If two things are similar, not the same, Ramazan, almost, okay, yeah, familiar, similar, almost same. Almost same? So if two things are similar, then they are like each other. If Aisha is similar to Ali, then Aisha is like Ali. And now we have that key word here, like. And if we just look here, we found the correct answer. The skull is citation-like. Again, I'm restricting the amount of information I need to focus on. If the keyword is in one sentence, then we only need to focus on one sentence. If the keyword is in two sentences, then we need to focus on two sentences. But here, we only have it in the one sentence, which basically means all of this information and all of the information down here, below that, is unnecessary. So we can get rid of hearing structures. There's no mention of hearing structures here. It talks about maybe receiving sound, but here it says they lack that ability. So they don't have the same. It's not similar. Adaptations, there's no mention of adaptations here, so we can eliminate that. And breeding locations looks good. We've got breed down here. You know, it does look like a good answer, but that information does not fall within the sentence that we have. So it's wrong. Shall we give it one more go? I need to be careful of the time. The word it's in the passage refers to, we'll go through this and then we'll have a break time. I'll let you think about it. A, Pachycetus. B, fish. C, life. Or D, ocean. I'll give you a minute to think about that. And then we'll have a break time. Eren, close to, Aisha is close to Jin Ali. That would maybe talk about a relationship. If two people are close, then they are they're almost like friends, as it were. Oh, Atim's gone straight in there, Ramazan, with A. Boom! Okay, what about you, Eren? Muharrem's gone with B. Looks good. Okay, Ramazan's very sure that he's found the correct answer. Besim? Ocean? Okay, D. Okay. And Eren's gone quiet again. Okay. Whoops. And my green screen's falling down again. Dear. The correct answer is A. Well done, Ramazan. Yeah, you did find it. So if we just quickly look down here at the bottom, I'll quickly turn on my pointer, laser pointer, my favorite, like that. So if we look at the position here, it probably bred and gave birth. We can see that it's in the subject position. It's not an object, it's a subject. So because it's a reference, we need to look at the sentence before. This is the sentence that we need to focus on. We need to find the subject of that sentence. Okay, we have a subject here, it. It has been suggested. It's a passive structure. So the yapan kişi aslında gizlice. So that's not going to happen. That's not going to help us. But we've got this connector, that. Bu da bir çeşit bağlaç. And then we've got pacticitus, which is also a subject. So it, subject, and pacticitus match with each other. If we look at fish, fed on fish, well, fish is coming after the preposition, not a subject. And we're looking for a subject. We're not looking for an object. And ocean, life, adapted for life. Again, we have that preposition, for life, for it. But the problem here is life is, once again, it's an object. How do we know it's an object? Well, we only use objects after prepositions. We never use subjects after prepositions. It's going to be an object noun, an object pronoun, or an object gerund, like a verb ing. I'm afraid of Joseph. Of is our preposition. Joseph is our object. I'm afraid of him. Him is an object pronoun. Why? Because we have that preposition of. And here in the open ocean, it looks good. But breed and give birth, the ocean does not breed and give birth. And here we have a prepositional phrase. Again, not in the subject position. Whew, çok konuştum. So we're gonna go for a break time. I'm going to try and fix this this green screen behind me. If it's not technical problems, then it's physical problems. And I've noticed half of my head is missing from this as well today. So we'll go for a quick break time, and I'll see you back at what time? I'll see you here back at 3. Yep, at 3 o'clock. Have a good one. Control A.
Olduğun yerden hemen kalkman gerek. Adım at ki gerçekleşsin her dilek. Bekliyor seni parlak bir gelecek. Sen ona gittikçe o sana gelecek. Justinglishle şimdi sen de dile gel. Justinglishle şimdi sen de dile. Justinglishle şimdi sen de dile gel. Justinglishle şimdi sen de dile gel.
A word for the joy and smile, a world where everyone will live by satisfaction and learn to survive in the outside world, Justenglish style. Learn, play, sing and dance, do what you don't see anywhere else. Learn, play, sing and dance, do but do Justenglish style.
Hayat devam ettikçe bitmez bu yarış. Sen de bir dil öğren, macerayla tanış. Hayat devam ettikçe bitmez bu yarış. Sen de bir dil öğren, bu dünyaya karış. Justinglishle şimdi sen de dile gel. Justinglishle şimdi sen de dile gel. Justinglishle şimdi sen de dile gel. Justinglishle şimdi sen de dile gel.
Knife.
Knife. Enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic.
Pronunciation.
Enthusiastic.
And enthusiasm. Enthusiastic.
Reci bilmiyorum.
Recipe.
Recipe. Recipe.
Bir daha.
Recipe.
Clark.
Clark.
Pronunciation.
Şimdi sen de dile gel. dünyadan hemen kalkman gerek. Adım at ki gerçekleşsin her dilek. Bekliyor seni parlak bir gelecek. Sen ona gittikçe o sana gelecek. Justinglishle şimdi sen de dile. Englishle şimdi sen de dile. Justinglishle şimdi sen de dile gel. Justinglishle şimdi sen de dile gel.
A world with a joy and smile, a world where everyone only by satisfaction and learn to survive in the outside world. Justinglish style. Learn, play, sing and dance. Do what you don't see anywhere else. Learn, play, sing and dance. Do but do Justinglish style.
Hayat devam ettikçe bitmez bu yarış. Sen de bir dil öğren, macerayla tanış. Hayat devam ettikçe bitmez bu yarış. Sen de bir dil öğren, bu dünyaya karış. Justinglish'le şimdi sen de dile gel. Justinglish'le şimdi sen de dile gel. Justinglish'le şimdi sen de dile gel. Justinglish'le şimdi sen de dile gel.
And hopefully back again. Okay, so I'll give everybody a quick chance to get back online. Say hi if you're back. My head's missing again. Let's move down here. Is that better? It's very uncomfortable sitting. Yeah, okay. Very uncomfortable sitting like this. Okay, and my head's sort of fuzzy as well. That's not a bad thing. Okay, so say hi if you're back online with me. The connection is not good here, Mr. Joseph. Sounds like an excuse, Mr. Aaron. Everything's an excuse. Okay. So let's go to the next question then. So we decided that those were incorrect. Just to recap on what we did in the first lesson, we found that we shouldn't read the reading passage in TOEFL. Even if the question tells us to read paragraph by paragraph, we shouldn't read by paragraph. We have to read the question and determine its type. We had 10 basic types of question, including vocabulary, reference, insertion, summary, mummery, implied information, and so on. Then once we decided on what type of question we're dealing with, we then have to find the key word in the question and find that key word in the passage. We also saw that there were two types of keywords we can find directly in their exact same form in the reading passage. But other keywords, sometimes we need to think about synonyms. If that keyword is in one sentence, then we only need to read one sentence. If the key to read two sentences. Once we've found that information in the reading passage, we then look for grammatical and vocabulary clues. Once we've found those clues, we go back to the options and we eliminate. Using this process, you should be able to eliminate at least two of those options, leaving us basically a 50-50, and then we focus on each individual option that we have left, whether it's A and B or A and D or A and C, and then we try eliminate according to vocabulary structure. Is everyone back online yet? Say hi if you are. Okay, well, I'm going to continue anyway. I don't need students, I just enjoy doing TOEFL. So let's go to the next question then. Ooh, a vocabulary question. The word exposed in the passage is closest in meaning to. So we have A, explained. Hey Ramazan, welcome back, brother. Then we have B, visible. Then we have, actually Ramazan, you've been here in some of my vocabulary classes. You'll be able to answer this correctly without using your dictionary. We have C, identified. And then we have D, located. And I'm going to give you a minute or so to think about that. If you are, whoop, there we go. We've got 11 people online. We've got one person that said hi. If you're back, say hi and let me know that you're here and answer the questions. Remember, it's only a class if you participate. Outside of that, it's only a bloody video, isn't it? So exposed. A, explained. B, visible. C, identified. Or D, located. Without using your dictionaries. Got about 15 seconds left. Still no answers. Get answering, boys and girls. Whoop, there I am. Welcome back, D, located. That's not bad. That's a popular answer, actually. Many people go straight for D. Ramazan, what about you? Okay. Well, the correct answer is, I'm afraid, Muharrem. The correct answer is actually B. Now, to get there, let's quickly do that. So, one of the things that we have to do when it comes to TOEFL vocabulary, a basic technique is break the word down. And this is what I've been focusing on for the last couple of weeks in my previous lessons of, well, I think maybe a Friday, if I remember correctly. We've been looking at vocabulary and how vocabulary is formed. And ETS like using this. So we can break the word down. We can break the word down into three parts. Prefixes. We can break them down into roots. And we can break them down into suffixes. Suffixes really aren't going to help you that much. So let's have a look at this word exposed. So let's see if we can actually break it down. Can I go down here somewhere? No, okay. Break the word down. So prefixes. We've got the prefix X. Ramazan and Muharrem, I think you were here for my vocabulary lessons. Do you remember what X means? What meaning does X have? Well, X means out of. Here. Other words, exit, expose, export, you know, all of these X's give a meaning of the direction going out. I'm going to put a list up of prefixes up very shortly. And then we also have this root pose, and we have another form, pone, and that means to put. So expose together means to put out. So we have that outward, the outward action. And here, if we look at the clue, it says they were found in sediments left by the Tetaci and now exposed. So in and out. They were left in sediments and now they are exposed. If we take something and we put something out, then everybody can see it. And I'll put that here. Vis means to see. And the suffix ibl means can. So visible, something which can be seen. Explained, we don't really have that same relationship here between the two. So A is incorrect. Whoops. My poem. Hold up a second. Oops. Okay. From current slide. And we'll get rid of that. So explained isn't going to be correct. Identified, well, identified doesn't have that idea of direction. And located, it does look good. Pose, to position something. But location and position have the same meaning here. We don't really have that idea of something being put out for the rest of the world to see. So some of the prefixes that we've looked at in previous weeks, feel free to screenshot this if you'd like. We had negative prefixes, of course, like dis, im, in, ir, and il. I'm not going to go in too much detail regarding these prefixes because we have done so in previous lessons. Prefixes can also show direction, and here we go, we've got ex, meaning out of. And really, if you're planning on taking the TOEFL exam, instead of studying thousands of new words, just study 100 roots and prefixes and you're going to be good to go. And these are commonly, we'll see this one a little bit later actually, pro, meaning forward, in another vocabulary question later today. We have im meaning into, con and co both meaning together or with, re meaning back, pro meaning forward, d meaning down, and sub meaning under. And here we have the examples: export, import, conversation, cooperate, reverse, product, decrease, and submarine. Prefixes can also have other meanings, such as uni meaning one, or bi meaning two, and tri meaning three. And then we have another form of ex here. And if you can see, we're using a hyphen, so we know that this ex means former, or the one before. And we have for meaning before, post meaning after, pre meaning before, trans meaning across, pro meaning for, and anti meaning against. And we have plenty of examples here too. And just a small list of roots that we've looked at. We've looked at roots extensively over the last few weeks. We have port, which means to carry, side, which means to kill, dict, which means to say, tract, which means to pull, spect, which means to see, duct, which means to lead, cred, which means to believe, vene, which means to come and go, or vid and vis, which we just saw previously, visible, being able to see something. You can come back and screenshot this later. So let's go to the next question, number 7. The hind legs of Basilosaurus was a significant find because it showed that Basilosaurus was A, lived later than Ambulosaurus natans, or B, lived at the same time as Pakicetus, C, was able to swim well, or D, could not have walked on land. Remember the tips, remember the strategies, use that, and I'm giving you 1 minute to find that answer. And I'm just going to sit here and look at you whilst you do that. Maybe have some water. Is my green screen okay now? Yep. Bye, yapıştım. I think Muharrem has gone in with D. Do we have any other answers there? We've got 13 people watching. Come on, Ramazan. Besim, are you still there? Time's nearly up. Let's start making some answers. Last 5 seconds. Okay, no one's answered yet. So I'm going to just go in and give the answer now. The answer is actually D. But how did we get there? Well, step number 1, read the question. The hind legs of Basilosaurus was a significant find because it showed that Basilosaurus. This type of question is a factual information question. So I know everything I need to answer this correctly, I can find directly in the passage. I need to find a key word. And the key word here is the hind legs. Very, very good, Ramazan. Very good, Muharrem. Excellent. And here we have the hind legs. But the problem with this is hind legs, it's not just one key word. We actually have 2 key words. We have hind and we also have legs. And if we look at the paragraph, we actually have hind leg here in one sentence, and we have such legs here in the second sentence. So that's the information that we need. If we focus on the information in the second sentence, a little shortcut, such legs would have been far too small. Well, this structure here is a negative structure. Far too expensive. Well, actually too. Anytime you see too, it's going to be a slightly negative or have a slightly negative meaning. So if we look at A, lived later than ambulosatus, even if we read both of these sentences here, that information is not present. Not only is it not present, it's also positive. We're looking for negative information. In B, again, we have the same problem. If we quickly look at this information here, there's no comparison between Pachycetus and the legs of the Basilosaurus. That's more up here as opposed to down here. Actually, is Pachycetus mentioned at all in this paragraph? Well, it says born after Pachycetus. Doesn't say the same time, but that information falls outside of what we need. Was able to swim well. Again, we have no indication of that. Not only that, it's positive information, and we're actually looking for negative information. So D, hi Sefer, how are you? Hopefully you're going to be joining the lesson. We have here D. So let's go to the next question, number 8. Almost finished. It can be inferred that Basilosaurus bred and gave birth in which of the following locations? So it's implied information. We need to find the key word. You're going to find the key word in the paragraph. You're going to look at the options and you're going to eliminate. I'm going to eliminate. So we have A, on land, B, both on land and at sea, C, in shallow water, or D, in a marine environment. And I'm going to start the clock there and give you a minute just to think about that. Don't forget, keyword, find the information, focus on the grammar, focus on the vocabulary, and eliminate the options. Come on, boys and girls, you can do this. A, on land, B, both on land and at sea, C, in shallow water, D, in a marine environment. Let me see your answers go up very quickly. Sefer's going with A. Okay, Sefer, thank you. Ramazan, Muharrem. And anybody else watching? Be brave. Whoop, Ramazan's going with D, in a marine environment. And what about Muharrem? I think maybe he went with D already, actually. Well, the correct answer is in fact D. So we're going to find the key word first. Any ideas what the key word is? Well, our keyword are breed and give birth. These are our key words, to breed and give birth. So we're looking for a location, a place where breeding and giving birth could possibly take place. And if we look down here in the paragraph, the only place where it said it would have been far too small to have supported the 50-foot-long Basilosaurus on land. So we know from this information that Basilosaurus did not live on land. But in this sentence here, it says it was undoubtedly a fully marine well. And here we have a root, mar, M-A-R, which means sea. So it lived in the sea 100%, with possibly non-functional or vestigial. Vestigial basically means non-functional hind legs, legs that didn't work, as it were. So we can get rid of on land, unfortunately. We can also get rid of B, both on land and at sea, because here we know it only lived in the sea. Shallow water is not in this information here. There's no indication as to how deep the water was in any shape or form. Again, it's leaving us with D. Okay. Ooh, a slightly more difficult question. It's the first type of question you've seen today of this particular type. It's what we call a functional question. Longman IBT call it a rhetorical purpose question. I don't really understand as to why. So we have, Why does the author use the word luckily in mentioning that the Ambulocetus nascens fossil includes hind legs? We have A, fossil legs of early whales are a rare find. Think about this word luckily. What does luckily show? When we look at this type of question, we need to think outside of the reading passage, not just inside of the reading passage, but sometimes we have to think outside of the reading passage. B, the legs provided important information about the evolution of cetaceans. C, the discovery allowed scientists to reconstruct a complete skeleton of the whale. And D, until that time, only the front legs of early whales had been discovered. And up here you have your timer again, and your time is slowly running out. What do we make it of this time, boys? And girls, I think, maybe. Who knows? Sefer, any ideas? Ramazan? Muharrem? Besim, if you're still there? Almost done. Oh, Muharrem's coming with D. Okay, that's a good answer. Ramazan has gone in with A. Okay, so far so good. Anybody else watching? Well, the correct answer is actually B. Let's think about this word luckily. As I said, let's think outside of TOEFL. If I gave you a sentence, I don't know. My grandfather before he died, I don't know. Before my grandfather died, it's a stupid example, he gave me this Rubik's Cube. Last week, I lost this Rubik's Cube, unfortunately. But luckily, a friend found it and gave it back to me. So, what's the Rubik's Cube to me? Well, the word luckily shows that things are important. When I said luckily my friend found this and gave it back to me, it shows that this Rubik's Cube has some sort of intrinsic value for me. It's important to me. Fossil legs, here we've got a rare find. And we're talking about fossil legs in generally, but we're not talking about the hind legs that were found. Be careful of these very general structures. We've gone from hind legs of a Basilosaurus, of a Basilosaurus to legs in general. We've gone very specific and very general. So we can get rid of, A there. The discovery allowed scientists to reconstruct a complete skeleton of the whale. Well, if we have a look at this information here, we don't have any indication. Let's open up my little pointer. We don't have any indication of scientists and the idea of reconstruction, or even a complete skeleton of the whale. Again, we've gone from the Basilosaurus to outside of that particular scope. So C is not going to be correct. Until that time, only the front legs of early whales had been discovered. Well, maybe if we look outside of this information, again, front legs, front legs, front legs, front legs. There's no mention of front legs in any shape or form in that reading passage. So we've gone from hind legs to front legs. Again, we can eliminate. So here we're going to have a basic summary question. As you can see on the right-hand side, we've highlighted some of that paragraph in blue. Slightly different from the questions that we've been looking at. Here they're giving us a large chunk of a reading passage, but we're going to use the same basic structure, the same basic strategies to answer this question correctly. Let's put the options up on the board. We have A, Even though Ambulocetus swam by moving its body up and down, it did not have a backbone. We have B. The backbone of the Ambulocetus provides evidence of its missing backbone. We have C. Although Ambulocetus had no fluke, its backbone structure shows that it swam like a modern whale. And we have D. By moving the rear parts of their bodies up and down, modern whales swim in a different way from the way Ambulocetus swam. So again, just to recap on what we've done so far. Read the question, decide its type. We know its type, it's a summary question. We have to choose the best of these that summarize this information. We're going to look for keywords. Well, there's going to be no keyword here this time. The keywords are actually here in the passage. So we're going to look for keywords, grammatical structures and clues, which will help us eliminate at least two options in this example. And then we're going to use that information and eliminate and hopefully find the correct answer. So I'm going to give you a minute there to answer those questions. And I'm going to try and get comfortable and maybe a little bit smaller and move out the way. There we go. Yeah, it does seem blurred, doesn't it? That is very blurred. Hold up a minute, see if we can... Yep, there's a problem with... Whoop, there we go. Okay, not so blurred anymore. So I'm going to move my head slightly out the way here. I'm going to move over here. So... maybe it's micro. No, Ramazan. I think there may just be a YouTube problem. It's not necessarily your problem. He's friends with everyone. Yeah, there was the same problem with me. Same problem with me as well. So there we go. I've moved out the way, hopefully. So I'm going to quickly go to the correct answer. And the correct answer is here, it's C. Although Ambulocetus had no fluke, its backbone structure shows that it swam like a modern whale. Well, how did I actually get there? How did I actually get to that point? Well, here again, I've looked at the structures here. The structure of the backbone shows we have this connector, however. Swam like modern whales by moving the rear portion of its body up and down, even though, however, even though. They both have the same meaning. They both show contrast. A fluke was missing. So if we look at the two options, the only options we have with these connectors, I'll move back in because these are not necessary anymore. The only options that we have with these connectors are A and C. Again, although, even though, however, they are all synonymous with each other. They have basically the same meaning. Even though, although, even though, and however. Here, if we look at B, the backbone of the Ambulocetus provides evidence of its missing backbone. We don't have a connector such as this. So we can actually eliminate B. If we go down to D, by moving the rear parts of their bodies up and down, modern whales swim in a different way from the way Ambulocetus swam. Again, we don't have a connector there, so we can get rid of that too. So we're now left with just A or C. So let's quickly compare these two structures. Even though Ambulocetus swam by moving its body up and down, it did not have a backbone. Here I've noticed that this is negative. And here, although Ambulocetus had no fluke, that negation, no backbone, no fluke, its backbone structure, so it had a backbone, shows that it swam like a modern whale. If we go back to the paragraph, the structure of the backbone shows, well, we know it must have had a backbone, so it did not have a backbone. A is incorrect. Again, through the process of elimination, we have found the correct answer. There we go. Okay, are we ready for the next one? Hey, Mohammed. Again? Okay. Okay, so vocabulary word. Actually, Ramazan, I hope that you're going to get this correct. The word propulsion in the passage is closest in meaning to A, staying afloat, B, changing direction, C, decreasing weight, or D, moving forward. And I'm going to give you a minute to answer that question too. The word propulsion. So as we spoke before, we need to break that word down. What's the prefix? What's the root? What meaning does the prefix have? And what meaning does the root have? A, B, C, or D? Your time's running out. I don't see any single word on screen because of blurred screen. Your screen's still blurred. YouTube problems today. Still blurred, really? Apparently, my technicians have said the speed is very slow today, generally. So propulsion. A, staying afloat. B, changing direction. C, decreasing weight. Or D, moving forward. Well, the correct answer is actually moving forward. I'm not going to write anything here in the text box. If you remember from earlier, pro means forward. Produce, provide, promotion, propulsion. In all of these words, pro means forward. And that's given us the correct answer down here. Forward. Moving forward. Not staying afloat. Not changing direction. And not decreasing weight. Okay. So you're back then, Ramazan, huh? Well, you know, there's always going to be some sort of technical problem. The second lesson, my green screen's okay, but the connection's pretty slow. So now we're moving on to what we call insertion questions. And in insertion question, they give you a sentence such as this. This is a question that has puzzled scientists for ages. And we have to put this sentence back into the correct place. So do you think it belongs to A, B, or C, or D? What's the correct position? I'll give you a minute to think about that. Screen's okay here. Your time's almost running out. A, B, C, or D? We're halfway there. Ramazan, what do you think? Got that big star in the way this time. If it's not my big head, it's a big star. Okay, well, we are 15 seconds, and I think I've actually frozen on camera, or I'm just really, I'm just really still. Well, the correct answer is actually B, over here. So extinct but already fully marine cetaceans. You know, again, we're using the same basic process. We're looking at keywords in that sentence, and we have this is a question. And we're looking for the best place for it. And if we look here, walking mammal and a swimming whale bridged, we have that question mark. And this information directly connects to that information, which tells me that this is the correct place. If we put it in A, this is a question. Well, this is a pronoun, so it talks about the sentence before. We don't have any question present there. If we go down to the options, option C, missing until recently were fossils clearly intermediate or transitional between land mammals and cetaceans. Again, we have no question here. And the same with D2. It's talking about the reconstruction of the origins of cetaceans, or the likely reconstruction of. Again, we have no question there. So the best place for this information is to go into B. We have, how was the gap filled? How was the gap bridged? This is a question that has puzzled scientists for ages. So we're going to move on to the last question, which is basically a summary question. This is typical of most reading passages. The very last question in each section. I'm going to have some water. So we have this statement up here. This passage discusses fossils. I'm just making sure. I'll move out the way very shortly. Actually, I'm going to do something. I'll move Control 2. I think, and hopefully that will remove my head. Not Control 2. No, just 2. Control 2, I don't remember. I'll have a look. If my head disappears, my head disappears. So we have this statement up here. This passage discusses fossils that help to explain the likely origins of cetaceans, whales, and porpoises. And this is our basic... Well, there you go. My head's disappeared. I did it correctly. That was okay. So all of the options that we choose from here, they have to be directly related to this information here. They have to be directly related. They may be in the reading passage, but that's not important. It has to be directly related to this statement here. So we have option number 1. Recent discoveries of fossils have helped to show the link between land mammals and cetaceans. We have option number 2. The discovery of the Ambulosatus natans provided important evidence for a whale that lived both on land and at sea. We have 3. The skeleton of Basilosaurus was found in what had been the Tethys Sea, an area rich in fossil evidence. We have number 4. Pachycetus is the oldest fossil whale yet to be found. Then we have number 5. Fossils thought to be transitional forms between walking mammals and swimming whales were found. And number 6. Ambulosatus hind legs were used for propulsion in water. So they're the options that we have to choose from. Of all of these, we have to choose 3 options which are related to the statement above, but also correct according to the passage. And I'm going to give you a minute to have a look through that and see which options you can come up with. So we've got the sentence here. We've got these sentences here. Which ones are related to this? Thank you, Hazal. Really wonderful teacher. Thank you. Well, I hope you should have answered some questions. I'm only a teacher if students participate. You know, if you're going to just watch me, then I'm just a TV presenter. But thank you anyway, Hazal. You're very kind. Ramazan, give me some answers, Hazal. Let me see. Let me see what you're coming up with. Well, Ramazan says number 6 is correct. Number 6, Ramazan, is it connected to this statement? Is it related to that statement? It might be correct in the reading passage, but it has to be correct according to that statement. Do we have any other ideas? Hazal? Muharrem, are you still there? Sana? Hello, Sana. How are you? Right at the end of the lesson. Number 2. Okay, number 2. Any other ideas? We've got 3 options that we have to choose. It's not just one. Which other options are possible? Hi, Sana. Hi, back to you. Next time, try to be on time. Yeah, Ramazan. Eğitim bilimleri. Number 1 is good, yeah. Number 1 is good. Recent discoveries of fossils have helped to show the link between land mammals and cetaceans. And if we look at the statement up here, this passage discusses fossils that help to explain the likely origins of cetaceans, whales, porpoises, and dolphins. We're looking at some sort of connection, a link between fossils and modern-day cetaceans. And here we have that keyword link. Yeah, I came new. I know you did. I've noticed. I watch everybody, Sana. I know who's here and who's not here. Well, we've had lots of problems today anyway. Internet problems, green screen problems. You haven't missed much. We'll be doing more on Saturday anyway. Hazar Erdem, number 5. Well, number 5 is correct. We'll come to that very shortly, yeah. And I think number 2. Did we have number 2 there? Sana, number 2. I'm sorry, Sana. I got too caught up in having conversation with you. Yeah, number 2 is correct too. Provided important evidence for a whale that lived both on land and sea. Again, we have the idea of a link. We're linking fossils with cetaceans and how they explain the origins, how they evolved into modern day cetaceans. So very good, Sana. Number 2 is correct. And I believe, if I have a quick look, okay, Ramazan said number 6 and Hazal said number 5. Very good, Hazal. We'll go through the incorrect options first. So with number 3, the skeleton of the Pterosaurus was found in what had been the Teta Sea, an area rich in fossil evidence. Looks good. It's in the paragraph. The information is there. It's true. However, it's not related to this statement up here. There is no connection between this idea of a link. And here in number 1 and number 2, we have that connection. Number 4, Pachycetus is the oldest fossil whale yet to be found. Now, I'm not sure if that's correct or incorrect, but I do know that this piece of information, the age of Pachycetus, does not tell us anything about the origins of cetaceans or whales. It's a fact, a simple fact which pertains only to Pachycetus. Thank you, Sana. My voice sounds amazing. Not many people think so. But thank you. Number 5. It's an English accent at the end of the day, you know. Not my favorite accent. Number 5. Fossils thought to be transitional forms between walking mammals and swimming. Here we've got this transitional forms between walking mammals and swimming whales. We have this idea of a link. So yeah, I think was that Sana that said number 5 or Hazal? Hazal said number 5. I'm not sure, but I think number 5. Be sure. And again, number 6, Ambulosatus's hind legs were used for propulsion in water. Again, this information may be true. It may be present and correct within the reading passage, but the important thing with this question is this statement up here. You know, I'd say maybe 7 out of 10 of my TOEFL students, if they have problems with this type of question, it's because they're simply forgetting this important statement up here. It's not enough to be true and present in the passage. It has to be connected to this statement. And of course, in the real exam, at the top of your screen here, there's a small button which says when this question appears, the reading passage disappears from your screen. You won't be able to see it. Let's put my camera back up, Control 1. Hello. You won't be able to see that question. Hopefully that's correct. you won't be able to see that reading passage. But at the top of your screen here, you'll have a small button which will say return to passage. It's important that you go back to the reading passage. And the basic way in which we're going to answer this question is, first we're going to decide if the information is directly related, and then we look for the keywords and we go back to the reading passage to make sure that that information is both present and correct, but more importantly, to make sure that that information is major information. We have major information and minor information. Major information is supported throughout the reading passage. Minor information, like number 4, here, Pachycetus is the oldest fossil yet to be found. I'll move my head out the way. Really, it's what we call minor information. It exists in only one sentence in that reading passage. Let's get rid of number 6 too. So, how are we doing for the time? Wow, we've got 2 minutes left. One more thing about this question, actually, before I leave you today. I'm glad I only prepared the one reading passage last night. I nearly prepared another one. On Saturday, we will be continuing reading skills. Sana, Hazal, and Ramazan, of course, you. And Muharrem, if you're still there, I would love to see you on Saturday at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock start, Sana. No excuses for being late. Hopefully, we won't have the same connection problems that we had today. One final thing I'd like to say about this question. This question, even though at the beginning of the lesson I said we need around 2 minutes, 1 minute 48 seconds per question. This question, because there's so much to do, you need at least 3 minutes for this question to answer it correctly in its entirety. Not only that, this question is often worth more than 1 point. It's worth 2 points, or sometimes it's worth 3 points, and rarely, occasionally, it's worth 4 points. And how many points you get for this question really depends on how many correct answers you have. So let's imagine it's worth 4 points. If you have all of your correct options, such as here, 1, 2, and 5, of course, you're going to get 4 points. But if you make 1 mistake, you're going to get 3 points. If you make 2 mistakes, you're going to get 2 points. If you make 3 mistakes, you're going to get 1 point. If you make 4 mistakes, you're going to get, well, not 1, I suppose. The same if it's 3. If they're all correct, you get 3. 1 mistake, you get 2. 2 mistakes, you get 1. 3 mistakes, you get none. In my experience on the exam, this question is generally, I would say 95% of the time, only worth 2 points. So even if you make 1 mistake, just 1 mistake, you're only going to get 1 point. So it's important that we spend time on this question in order to try and get as much or as many points as we can. We do know in the exam you're going to have 3 questions like this. So a minimum of 6 points overall to be won or to be lost. Anyway, okay, I will be careful about that. Very good, Sana. Thank you very much. See you. I see everybody on Saturday. Have a wonderful day. And of course, be safe as always. And study hard. Bye-bye.